This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. And as viewers of this channel are probably already well aware, we value our privacy here at PFT. And in 2020, it's been a bit of a challenge maintaining that. And I honestly think that moving forward, as we continue to navigate this post-COVID 1984 nightmare, the challenges are only going to continue. It's only going to get worse when it comes to privacy. And this is why we have recently developed our first ever product here at Press for Truth, something I can be proud to sell, guys. This is the PFT Privacy Protector. It's a Faraday cage for your phone. And joining me on the line right now is the man that I partnered up with to make this project happen, Howard Olson. Howard, thanks so much for joining us here today, man. I want to get into the technical aspects of how this thing works and why someone might want to purchase something like this in the first place. But before we get into that, maybe you could start us off with the story of how this whole thing came about in the first place, how we met, because I think it's interesting about how this project all came about. So why don't you start us off with that, the story of how we first met and how this project came about?
Yeah, you bet. Well, I've been following you, Press for Truth, for years, and I love not only the international scope that you bring to the story, but also a unique Canadian perspective. So, listen, we follow all of them. Like everybody in the truth community, we follow multiple channels, and yours has always been one of our favorites. And, we actually had a couple emails over the years, but they were sporadic and, so no real connection. But I guess it was about 6 weeks ago, you just did a very quick and short video walking along the Squamish River and just said, hey guys, look what I found today. And you held up an example of one of these Faraday cases. And as my wife and I were sitting there watching this, and we call it every night after dinner, we sit down, I go look at her, I say, hey, you ready for a little truth? And she laughs and goes, yeah, I'm ready for some truth. So we flip on the channel, and that's when your video popped up. And we watched this, and it couldn't have been more than 3 minutes. And all I remember thinking to myself is, he doesn't have a link. He's basically endorsing a product. He doesn't know how to tell people where to get it. And my wife is in the textile manufacturing business. We actually met and lived in China and Hong Kong for a bunch of years. She ran all the factories for Eddie Bauer. I took care of all the logistics. And so she's classically trained as a tailor and a seamstress and a production manager. And we looked at this and we said, the biggest problem that all these guys have is that they're being defunded and delisted, and they're all desperate to bring in revenue so they can keep their channels alive. And, obviously as an individual, there's no way I can support every channel out there, and nor can any of your other viewers. And so this light bulb went off in the head. Listen, with your background, we could actually make a better case than the one that he just showed on camera. And we could do it as an exclusive sell through his channel so that he can actually find a funding source and still bring some value back into the community. And so that's when this idea got born. We sent you an email, said, hey, listen, I got a great idea. Let's talk. And then, our conversation began, I guess, about 6 weeks ago. And since then, we've developed 3 or 4 different prototypes. The one you got in your hand is the first prototype, and we're ready to go into production now. So that's how this whole thing started, as really just a good way to bring funding to you. Like I watch all those other channels and they're selling vitamins and, and collagen and, all good stuff. But this is something everybody needs.
Yeah, as I said, this is something I really can be proud to sell, and especially moving forward as our privacy rights are continuously being more and more incrementally stripped from us. So why don't we get into a little bit of how this thing works? I mean, for somebody who maybe have never heard of a Faraday cage or what that is or how this thing works or what it does specifically, maybe you can break it down a little bit for us, the technical aspects of what this thing does.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think because I've used that term Faraday cage with lots of my friends and associates, and a lot of them, what is that? And a lot of them know what it is. A lot of them don't. The easiest analogy, I like metaphors. If you got to go to the doctor and get an X-ray, they usually put a lead vest over top of you. And what that does is it blocks the X-rays off of your body from so in other words, the X-rays only reach the point that is uncovered. And so it's basically that vest, that X-ray vest is a Faraday cage. It blocks radio waves, radio frequencies. And so that's what this case is. It is essentially a Faraday cage. And when you put your phone inside of it, it will block all frequencies. In other words, calls won't go through, the GPS won't get through, and the radiation won't come out of it, also protecting your body from whatever it's emitting or attracting to it. So that's what a Faraday cage is. It's basically a meshed metal enclosure. Here, give me another example. If you look at your microwave, You know that there's microwave waves in there that are going in and superheating the particles, and that's how the food actually gets hot and cooks. But if you look at the glass, you'll see that there is a metallic mesh over the window of the microphone. That metallic mesh, in essence, is a Faraday cage that prevents those waves from coming through the other side of the door. And so that's what this case is. We have developed a special metallic mesh lining that once your phone goes into it, radio waves seeking to find it can't get in, and radio waves that it's emitting can't get out. In other words, blocking you from the towers.
Yeah, so you essentially disappear from the radar of the authorities that may be contact tracing you or following you around for whatever reason. You essentially blip, you know, your little light disappears. And I think that's something that's going to be very interesting for people moving forward. So, I mean, why do you think someone might want one of these other than the contact tracing things? I mean, there's a lot of reasons I can think of in terms of health, but there's also the privacy issue, which I think is probably
There's all of that,
one
yeah.
of the biggest ones, right?
Well, why don't we start with one of the unique features of this case, because we looked at lots of cases before designing this one. If you want to hold that thing up,
Mhm.
with the contrast on the camera, I don't know how well. So flip the lid open, okay, and show them the phone going into the upper case.
Yeah, so it can slide into slide in up at the top here. Let me just show
Right.
you with that.
And it just drops right in, and now the entire phone is being blocked from emitting transmission or receiving it. And
Yeah,
we'll talk about why that's so important from a contact tracing perspective in just a second. Now, take the phone out and stick it on the inner pocket.
yeah,
So there are times, and there's no other case in the market that does this. And I can tell you, we looked at hundreds of them. Okay. It's now sitting on the inner pocket, and what that now does is, because there's going to be times when you're walking around and you don't want your phone cut off from the outside world. You want to be able to send, receive calls, get your texts, get your emails, do all the rest of that. But most of us are walking around with these phones either in a purse, or if you're a guy, it's usually in our back pocket or our front pocket. And many of us have heard about, so I'm not going to make any medical claims, but the dangers of receiving that radio energy into your body can do all kinds of things. And so when you put it to the inner pocket, you can now stick the phone in. It's still receiving and it's still transmitting. But if you put that in your back pocket with the phone facing out, your body is now protected. So the Faraday cage is still protecting your body from the transmission of those frequencies, but the phone is still active.
yeah. I think that's a really brilliant little addition that we've got here that that the others don't, because as you said, sometimes you're going to want to be using this thing for various reasons, but are going to still want to be blocking the signals from doing harm to our bodies. I mean, we still don't know the long-term effects of these things. They haven't really.
Well, there are many reports, and truth seekers know how to find this stuff. There are multiple reports that talk about the dangers of this.
Yeah.
So I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to get into this. But I've looked at lots of research papers that tell me what I need to be aware of, and I'm going to suggest to your viewers they do the same thing.
Well, for sure. As I understand it, some of the creators of the iPhone don't even let their kids have one or play with one. I don't think
true.
The guy from Apple doesn't let his kids use an iPhone. I mean, that should go to say a lot. I don't think Bill Gates lets his kids play with iPhones either.
He's on record saying it.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. So now I'm sure people are probably pretty interested in getting one of these, and I think they should be, because as I said, we seem to be moving towards what they keep calling a second wave. Bill Gates himself has called this pandemic 2. And we are now seeing this contact tracing idea, which essentially is Big Brother, growing more and more. And I think it soon may become mandatory. What are your thoughts on the need to protect your own personal private information moving forward? Because a cell phone, let's face it, is private. You can't just look that up in a book. It's personal, private information. And I think as we continue to navigate the post-COVID 1984 nightmare, it's only going to get more challenging. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think we're moving into a space that's going to become more and more difficult to maintain your privacy, under COVID?
Well, yeah, I think there's two issues. I think there's two issues at stake here. One, I think anybody who's watching this channel is into alternative media and is seeking truth. So we all know that what we're in the middle of watching right now are a series of encroachments onto our personal freedoms. And this is in my opinion, this is a giant psyop to see how far they can encroach until there's finally pushback, and then whatever the next ramification of that's going to be. It's no accident they're already talking about wave 2 and wave 3, and that already a decade ago, paper like Lockstep was already written outlining how everybody knows about, the event 201 that happened in October in preparation from what unfolded in February and March. But all of this was actually pre-written in a document from the Rockefeller Foundation called, Lockstep. And that I can't give you the exact date, but it's something in the neighborhood of a decade ago. So this has been long planned. And so the fact that they're talking about, wave 2 and wave 3 means that this has all been premeditated. So I think, the encroachment, the tyranny is only going to get stronger. But that's only one side of it, because listen, you and I and all of the viewers here, we've all got neighbors, friends, and even family that have not woken up to what we've come to realize. And so we try to have these conversations with our neighbors and our friends to tell, hey, listen, this is what's coming and you need to be aware of this. Right. And I got nothing to hide. And, I got nothing to hide. If they contact trace me, what do I care? So I've just learned you got to explain this to them in real terms. Okay, let me put it to you like this. Okay, forget about wave 2, wave 3, and those are very real concerns. But let's put it right here, right now, in the immediate. Okay, let's just suppose that you go to Costco or Walmart or Supercenter or wherever you go and do some shopping. Okay, tomorrow. And for you, it's an innocuous, innocent shopping trip. And you just so happen to be standing right next to some stranger. You're not exactly 6 feet away. You're probably 4 feet away. Phone has picked that up because the contact tracing app, whether you know it or not, it's already on your device. It's already been downloaded. You didn't have to download an app. It went into your phone with an update. And if you go into the settings, you'll find it in there. So you're now let's just say, keep it simple. You're at the supermarket. You're standing in line waiting to check out. Some guy named Bob that you've never met before is standing 4 feet away, 4 feet away from you. What you don't know is that Bob was standing next to somebody named Sally yesterday, and Sally was standing next to her Uncle Vic 3 days ago. They have now determined that Uncle Vic has COVID. And Uncle Vic was next to Sally. Sally was next to Bob. You're next to Bob. And now all of a sudden they're coming after you. And all you did was go on a very simple, innocuous trip. And now and as the tyranny continues, they're going to come and bust down your door. They're going to throw you into quarantine, take away your kid. Like, all of these scenarios can start playing out. And when you start explaining this to people, they go, I didn't think of that. Well, that's why I'm telling you, need to think about this, because it's not whether you have it or don't have it. And it's not even whether Bob has it or doesn't have it. They have determined, they have assessed. And what does assess mean? It simply means to make an assumption with no foundation of fact to back it. We've assessed it. Okay. So they've made an assessment now that Vic over there, 20 people removed from you, has it. And because he was in close proximity to all these other people, and now you're in close proximity, now you're it. This is just an ugly game of tag. That's why you need this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I keep equating it to Big Brother, which essentially it really, really is when you take a look, you step back and you look at it, how it works, how it operates. It's really the tracking, tracing, and databasing of the entire society. So this is why I feel it's incredibly important to own one of these things moving forward. Now, as you said, this is an exciting opportunity to fund the alternative media space. And let's talk a little bit about that, because, as viewers of this channel know, I've been completely demonetized by YouTube, and then they followed that up by completely removing me from the platform altogether. I've been financially attacked. They've shut down my GoFundMe campaigns. This is because I'm over the target, folks, and they don't want this type of info getting out there. So this is why I'm being attacked. And I think this is why this has gotten people like you excited in helping people like me, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, about how this can actually change the field of alternative media moving forward. Because if I had the funding of, say, the state-sponsored CBC, just imagine some of the things I could do here at Press for Truth. But we don't have that funding. But with something like this, it might be possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's another vehicle. I mean, it may not solve all of your money issues, but it'll certainly fill a big gap. And that was the whole idea of this. Is we watched that video, 6 weeks ago or so when you did that little Squamish Riverside thing. I said, man, we should make this and make it only available to the alternative media guys. Because listen, I watch all of you. I watch all of you. Look, using affiliate links to sell products at the end of your videos. And listen, I have no challenge with that. I listen, God bless you and more power to you. But there's only so many bottles of collagen I need. I don't need 20 flashlights. I don't need 20 break the glass hammers. I don't need that. But man, everybody needs one of these things. And so as my wife and I watched, her name's Michaela, by the way. And as Michaela and I watched your video, I just looked at her. I said, we could make them better, and we could distribute them only through the alternative media and give these guys something that they can really offer to their communities that their communities desperately need to bring in revenue so they can continue to pay for their internet, their flights, their cameras. And listen, money is not, money is not the be all and end all, but it is the oxygen that feeds the fire. It is the fuel that it's gas to a car. And without the revenue, your channel is dead, and what you provide to the world and what you provide to your community is invaluable. It's immeasurable, but you still need revenue to be able to continue to do what you do. And as we watched that video, we said, let's make these and make them available to Dan and a few others so that they can actually give something of value to the community that the community needs that will bring revenue back to them so they can continue to operate. And that was really the whole idea here.
Totally. And that's so awesome because, and it's so greatly appreciated because, yeah, moving forward, obviously we are going to need the help, but we want to feel good about what we're selling. And this is why I've never sold any kind of product here on Press for Truth. This is the first one ever because it had to be something that I felt good about, something that I could truly believe in. And this is that. This, folks, is something I can truly believe in. And as it's been a lot of work. It went into the design, the sleek design, the ability for it to stick in your pocket. I mean, it evolved from this big clunky thing that I found on the internet. And after, a lot of work and dedication, we've gotten it down to this. Now, with your guys' help, the quicker that we can get the pre-orders for this going, the faster we can start printing these things and getting them out to your hands, folks. So this is why I wanted to bring this to your attention today. Get your pre-orders in now. Not just one for yourself. This is the kind of thing you're going to want for your friends and your family. As Howard said, when they start to see the encroaching big brother get worse and worse, and they start to see that you have something like this, they're going to start to get curious and say, what is that? And how does it work? And
well, I'll give you a quick example. Listen, and it's not just for you. I mean, it makes a great Christmas gift. Everybody wants a decent phone case anyway. And this just comes with extra value, extra benefits attached to it. We got lots of friends and neighbors that, aren't watching the truth media like we are. They're kind of aware, but, I showed this to just a couple of people, just casual. I said, just think about this. You go down to the supermarket, you stand next to Bob, who stood next to Vicky, who stood next to Vic. And next thing you know, you got a problem. I'll take 3, please. I'll take 4, please. And this was just sitting in the park, having a barbecue with a couple of our buddies last weekend who are kind of awake, but aren't really watching as closely as many of us are. Mm-hmm. We are the anomaly. Okay. We're still the minority, but we're growing in numbers. And so let me just talk about why we're doing a pre-order on this. Okay. Just like, like the Gap or Levi's or Lee, when you're custom manufacturing a product, there are minimum order quantities. And so, listen, we've got really tight connections inside of these factories. We've custom manufactured the fabric because that gives us control over the supply chain and all the rest of that. But the minimum order quantity is 5,000, right? And so you take 5,000 times your production cost, and we're looking at several zeros of prepayment. Right. And again, this is just this is kind of a giant experiment. We think it's going to work. We think you guys want it. And so here's what we're doing. In order to fund the production on this, we're going to basically offer to them on a pre-sale. We've backward planned it that once we hit 5,000, we can put the order in. And then it's basically, we can backward plan it 6 weeks from the time that we place the order to the time of delivery, because they're going to come into Vancouver. And then from Vancouver, we're going to distribute across Canada. And then we'll set up a customs broker just on the other side of the border in Bellingham or Blaine, Washington, so we can distribute the US orders. So from time of order to receipt in North America, we're looking at about 6 weeks. And then once we've got that, then we can use cash flow to continue to replenish. And so this is a unique opportunity to get your hands on the first production run of these things. And you're not going to get it. You're not going to get a dud product because we've already run the prototypes on it. So the prototypes are done. We've paid for all the sampling. We paid for all the initial runs of the fabric and everything else. But now to place the order, we need to be able to fund that. And what we want to do with you guys is, just as we're trying to find a way to help Dan and others fund their channels, we now need you. If this is a good idea to you, place an order. The money will go into escrow, and it'll be used to pay for the production of the goods. If we don't hit 5,000, I don't think that's going to be a problem. But if we don't hit 5,000, we just refund it.
Yeah. Yeah, simple enough, guys. It's a win-win scenario. You're getting yourself, you're hedging yourself against the coming crackdown on our privacy. And as we said, if it doesn't come about the way we had originally envisioned, you'll simply get a refund and get your money back, plain and simple. So if this is something you are interested in, guys, and something you want to help to support the field of alternative media while also protecting yourself, this is such a great way to do it, guys. This is the PFT Privacy Protector. We're going to have a link in the description below to where you can get one. Pre-order yours now, and if you pre-order a couple, it will certainly help us get to that 5,000 level a lot quicker, so that we can get these out to you within 6 weeks of placing the order. So exciting times, guys. So Howard, once again, thanks so much for joining us here today. Any final thoughts on what people should be thinking about here moving forward when it comes to protecting their privacy?
It doesn't matter what you think you have to hide or what you think you don't have to hide. They're always poking, they're always prodding, and they're always ingressing onto your personal space. So again, just like this weekend, we went to a party this weekend. Actually, Dan and I met in our kitchen. Dan and his wife and me and my wife, we met in our kitchen this weekend, and we were just on our way to a party. And I know everybody at that place. But the whole time that we sitting with them, I kept my phone in the case. And if I needed to make a phone call, I basically went to the far end of the yard, because I just didn't want this phone, my phone, picking up anybody else's phone, because I don't know what supermarket they were in and what version of Bob or Sally they stood next to yesterday. You really need to think about this.
Yeah. A lot of people will say, well, it's not mandatory. You don't have to get the app. Well, guess what? It is in some places. In India, for example, some workers have to download the app. There's some schools in the US that students, mandatory, they have to download the app if they want to attend school. So if you don't think that can happen here, you're missing the bigger picture.
Well, I would go one step further. The app is the app is already on your phone. So there is an app that you can download off the iTunes store or off the Play Store at Android. But there is a base application which is already downloaded on all of our phones 6 weeks ago. It's there. Go look in your settings. You'll find it. They're already geotagging and geotracing us. They're just giving us the illusion that they're not. It's already happening.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. And that's why we have to take the responsibility for our privacy into our own hands, and essentially taking that power out of their hands and putting it into ours. And the way you can do that, guys, is by getting a PFT Privacy Protector. So really exciting times. Once again, I really hope this does what I think it's going to do, and I know it will. So I'm really excited to have partnered up with you on this. So once again, man, I look forward to this new exciting venture that we're on, and we'll talk again soon and keep people updated as this continues to develop. So once again, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, you bet. Thank you, Dan.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.